This is a 1949 model Willys station wagon built by the Willys-Overland company and been a major auto manufacturer in the U.S. Built cars from the early 1900s well into the 1950s, and in fact in the early 1920s is one of the largest manufacturers in the country. This particular vehicle was built in February of 1950. It was one of the very last of this particular design because in March of that year Willys changed over to an overhead valve engine, requiring some changes to the hood and slight structural changes to the front vehicles. But you certainly are familiar with the Jeep, and Willys won the contract to build the small personnel carriers during World War II and produced them by the many thousands throughout the war, and then continued to produce both civilian and military models after the war. Following the war, Willys had all this manufacturing capacity, and there was a huge demand for vehicles. The war had been very much a shortage of that, both the metal and rubber and other things needed to build them. They'd all been directed to the war effort. So after the war, there was this huge demand, and Willys, besides making their cars, wanted to use their manufacturing capability and this proven design that they put together with the Jeep to try to build some alternate types of vehicles. They certainly did this. They built the civilian and the military Jeep, and of course the Jeep shape, basic shape, exists still today. But they also took the basic Jeep subframe and built several other models, which this is one. One model was what was called the Jeepster. It was a convertible car with a four-seat system, both four-cylinder and six-cylinder engines, kind of a sporty version of the Jeep. They also built pickup trucks, both four-wheel drive and two-wheel drive pickup truck versions. And then they produced these, what are SUVs, these station wagons. Station wagons came in early on, starting in 1947, and built into the 1960s, and there were many different models of these, including ambulances and other forms made. But these early models were fairly basic and very similar. This is a two-wheel drive model known as the 463 model. They also produced a four-wheel drive model, as well as for a short period what they call the deluxe model, which included some nicer features, some things on the side, paneling, etc., and a six-cylinder engine to make it a little more attractive to upscale buyers. But this was the basic model. You can tell that it's a two-wheel drive by the fact it has hubcaps, which are not found on the four-wheel drive. Also, of course, the four-wheel drive has the transaxles, standard transaxles in the front. This is a four-cylinder model, which can be told by the little four-cylinder symbol that's found on the nose of it here. To be general purpose vehicles to haul people, materials, produce, particularly around farms and on the rough roads at the time. This design was made to look like the wooden wagons that were very popular pre-World War II. There is no wood in these. These are all metal, so they're called the metal woodies sometimes. And they were quite popular. Many thousands of these produced and used. Of course, they suffered a lot from abuse, and there's 97. It wasn't until, I believe, late 1950 or 51 that they put turn signals on the sides of these. So this has on, these are just little added components for safety around town. This did one stop light in the back. Another feature of the really early models is the type of bumper, whether it's embossed with the name of Willys, as this one is, and also whether it comes around the side. There's an add-on piece that comes around. If you see that add-on piece, then you're looking at a vehicle made a little later in the 1950s. We'll open it up here, standard hatch at the top, and pull open the tailgate. Let us look at the interior. You can see that it's just a fairly Spartan, fairly standard interior. It was made to be a work vehicle. The seats will pop up very easily, come out, so you have extra room for cargo as you need. It's supposed to be a 6-passenger vehicle for people today. There was also a small jump seat that was available. It's a fairly rare item. Not very many people have them, and this one apparently did not have it as the original piece because the components are not there. But you could haul lots of material, lots of forms. Now this is a semi-original version of this vehicle. The paint is the appropriate type. The brownish paint on the hood and top is correct colors, but the side, while they're the right design, they're really a color more from about 1952 or 3. So it's got the right style, but it's not exactly correct. That doesn't bother me. I have no intention of making this into a show car or a trailer queen. I enjoy driving it around, so I want to use it in that capacity. This is original. The headliners obviously not. They were paper and fell out, and someone's replaced it with a somewhat unique design. New steering wheel, but it's the correct type for it. I need to find a horn button to make that original. But the seats are original. Seating capacity, you can see no seat belts or anything, which were not found in vehicles at the time. Certainly none of the other features. A couple of things that you can see, the two-wheel drive models had column shifters, so they were a standard 3-speed on the column. The four-wheel drive models would have a transaxle shifter and all the components to use the four-wheel drive in the floor. The really early models, one of the things you can tell is where the ashtray location is, whether it's up on top here or slightly below it down here closer to what you see is the windshield wiper knob, this one. The other components that tell us a bit about the age is this cluster of instruments. These little stripes that you see along here are fairly unique to the 49 and early 50 models. Others had either different type patterns, or eventually they changed over to a round shape later in the 1950s. There's that the driver's side door will not lock from the outside, but the passenger door will. So you have to lock the driver's side door, slide across the seat, and go out the other side. I assume that was because you would be parked next to a curb or something. These have, you don't need to use the clutch to shift up or to shift down, at least when the overdrive is active and is functioning correctly. There's also a button underneath the gas pedal. When you push all the way down the gas pedal, it disengages the overdrive, giving you slightly more power if you're trying to move up a hill or you're trying to surpass someone.